Hi, it's Pastor Paul L. Anderson here at the Fountain of Raleigh Fellowship, where we believe God's blessings never stop flowing. It is Fantastic Friday. It is that day that we thank God for the wonderful ways He's blessed us and kept us, and He keeps us day by day, and He allows us to see the wonderful ways in which He has shown to us His goodness and His love and His compassion, and how we as believers can do the same for each other. Today I ask that you look with me into 2 Corinthians, the 8th chapter, verses 1 through 7 from the New Living Translation, a message entitled, A Call to Generous Giving. Paul writes to the church of Corinth, and he begins to remind them how God has blessed them in so many ways. He tells them, first of all, that it is the kind of goodness that God has shown in such a way that He has shown the kindness through the churches in Macedonia. See, they were all being tested because they had been through many troubles, many trials. They were very poor, but they were filled with abundant joy, which overflowed in their rich generosity. This text begins to remind us, in this life, many of us, we will have the various testings and trials that come our way. But even in the midst of all of that, God wants us to have the right kind of spirit. He said they were filled with abundant joy. This is the joy that overflowed in their generosity. He reminds us they began to do what they did because of the love of God within them and the Spirit of God working through them. He tells us that they gave not only what they could afford, but they gave far more, and they did it of their own free will. He reminds us that in this life, sometimes there are challenging trials that we go through. As the church of Corinth did, going through many different situations and trials. But the churches in Macedonia decided that they wanted to give because of their joy, the joy that allowed them to have overflowing generosity. Oftentimes we forget that God wants us to be generous. And this church, they began to ask over and over and over for the privilege of giving to the believers in Jerusalem. Even though they didn't have a whole lot, they made giving their priority because they realized how God had given to them so much. He had bountifully blessed them. Even though they didn't have a whole lot of financial resources, it was with joy that they reached out to help each other. Even though this happened in their life, they made giving a priority. Just as the Lord gave to them, they wanted to give to others. And they did not allow anything to stop them. So Paul urged Titus, who encouraged their giving in the first place. He says to return to you and encourage you to finish this ministry of giving. He told them they had excelled in so many other ways. They had excelled in their faith. They had excelled in their oratory and the way in which they had gifted speakers, in their knowledge, in their enthusiasm, and in their love. But he tells them, I want you to excel also in your generous acts of giving. Too oftentimes in this life, we forget that God wants us to be generous in our giving of our time, our talent, and even also our treasure, our resources. This finds itself that when we have been blessed, there are others who may not have had the same financial blessings, but it doesn't mean that we hold back. We give the best that we can because we make giving a priority. Paul knew as he wrote the church that this would be the way that people could tell that even in their own hardships, even in their own disappointments, that God blessed them to have a spirit of courageous giving. Too oftentimes in our general society in which we live, people have forgotten that it's okay to say all the wonderful things that people say, but God wants us to be generous in our giving of our financial resources to make a difference in the life of those. Right now, our country seems to go through some very difficult times that people have found out what's happening with the market. But those of us who have plenty, we should share out of the goodness that God has given to us. The Bible reminds us that when we came into this world, we had nothing, and when we leave, we will have nothing. So the something that we've acquired while we were here, financial resources, let's make sure we share it with every believer, and let's make sure that everyone knows it's because of God's love. It's because of God's generous gift of salvation through and by his son, Jesus Christ, that we love to share the gospel. And somebody put it this way: if you know that a person is really saved, you can look at their checking account. If we spend all of our money on athletics and all the other kind of events and see very little in our tithes and our giving towards missions and outreach, it is then you can tell where a person's heart is. The Bible reminds us wherever a person's treasure is, there you will find their heart also. So wherever a person's heart is, you will find out what they treasure. And so today, I hope that you can receive a call to generously give to those who are in need, to make a difference as this church did. May God bless you. As you know, in this year of 2022, God has a very special blessing in store for you, and you are exceedingly and abundantly blessed. I'll see you on tomorrow.
To sow a seed to the Fountain of Raleigh Fellowship, visit our newly redesigned website, thefountainofraleigh.org, and select Sow a Seed from the homepage. Also, giving has been made easier with the new Fountain of Raleigh app, available now in the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. Download today, select Giving from the main menu, and then follow the directions to complete your giving through Subsplash.
Thank you so very much for all of your gifts and donations that you've given to the Fountain of Raleigh Fellowship. We thank you for what you've done in the past, what you're currently doing, and what you will do in the future. Your gifts and donations helps us to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, not only locally, but throughout the world. Thank you again for your gifts, and may God continue to richly bless you. It is here at the Fountain that we believe that we are exceedingly and abundantly blessed, and may you receive those blessings that God has in store for you.